Good morning to everyone in Europe and good afternoon everyone in China. Welcome again to the EU SME Center webinar series. We're really happy to have you on board for this very exciting webinar today. As usual, I would just like to start this webinar by giving you a quick overview of the webinar platform, which you have just in front of you. I'd like to see that everything is working well for everyone, so if you could just raise your hand. You can see on the left-hand side of the panel, you've got the hand. If you just click on the hand, if everything's okay technically for you, and that you can hear us properly. I see that hands are slowly raising. Again, if at some point you raise some technical difficulties, just send us a message on the chat and we'll try to help you to solve the problem. You've got other function again on the panel, one of which at the bottom of the screen or the panel is for you to actually raise your questions. We've got actually a very popular webinar today with quite a lot of you registered already. If we don't manage to address your question just today, what we'll do is just send us an email or leave your comment again in the webinar and we'll get back to you separately. Also on other questions you'd like to raise to the EU SME Center. As a quick reminder to everyone, the EU SME Center is an initiative financed by the European Union to help European SMEs to establish their activities here in China, whether it is to export products or to develop a business. We offer free confidential information and advice, and we have a small office here in Beijing of 15 people to help you with your day-to-day business in China. We answer general questions on the setup of a WUFI or representative office, or how to deal with your taxation or with your standardization issues in China. And from the website you can access to a very wide range of documentation, case studies, guidelines, and other materials, including also the series of past webinars. We offer also, or we organize also a number of other sorts of trainings, seminars, and for that again I'd like to invite you to visit and register on our website eusmecenter.org.cn. So today we've got a very exciting topic for today's webinar on how to develop a robust digital marketing strategy in China, and I'm very happy because we've had a bit of a last-minute change and we've had a change of expert, and I'm very happy that we have Denis Fasquelle with us today from Digital Jungle. Denis has got extensive experience in digital marketing in China, and he will share his views and experience with us in today's webinar. So first of all, Denis, thank you again for your availability at the last minute call, and thank you for being available here to help us to see a little bit clearly on maybe the Digital Jungle, as your company is called, of digital marketing in China. So with this, I'd like to pass you the floor, Denis.
Thank you very much. So hello everyone, I'm Denis Fasquelle. I'm the VP Travel and Hospitality Practice with Digital Jungle here in Beijing. Digital Jungle is a leading social media and digital marketing company here in China. My background is in hospitality, but I switched actually to digital marketing about 3 years ago, but still working with the hospitality industry. So today's webinar, we're going to talk, I'm going to go briefly through the internet landscape in China, look at some market characteristics. We'll be looking then at online promotion channels, social media, and finally we'll talk about mobile marketing. So obviously we could talk for days and weeks about digital marketing in China, so this is an overview only, and I'll try to cover as much as possible within the time frame.
Actually, I think it would be quite interesting, Denis, to have a little bit of input from our audience to actually see what is their principal consideration when developing a online presence in China. So I'm going to launch the first poll, which should appear on your screen just now, in fact. And from the poll, just please give us your feedback whether you're really using online presence for your corporate image, B for promoting products and services, C, operations and logistics, or D, customers services. So we're now getting your input. I can see the input that you're providing us. In a few seconds, I'm just going to close. Okay, so with this, I'm going to close the poll, and I'm sharing the results with you. So really, a predominant part of you, 83%, are developing their online presence really specifically for promoting products and services before all of the other aspects. So I don't think there is much surprise there, but you could, what is your view on
No,
this?
I think this is not surprising at all. China is a huge market. It's very hard to come in when you don't know the market, and I think online is probably the way to go when you start promoting to Chinese audiences.
Okay, so with this, I'm just closing I'm just hiding the results, and again, leaving you for the next part of the presentation.
So China internet landscapes. So basically, right now, I mean, end of 2012, because the numbers are changing every day. We had 580 million internet users in China, and we expect within 3 years to go over 740 million. 58% of Chinese netizens spend 3 hours or more on the internet every day, and they spend 41% of the time on social media. What is the behavior of Chinese people usually? So first, when they look at buying products or services, they would look at recommendations from friends and family, and then they would look at consumer review products on the websites they can identify around them. Basically, internet in China helps people understand more about the product and services they're looking at, and there's also a big notion of quality, and for that they're looking at getting feedback from their friends, and a lot of times from their online friends. So in terms of users, you could see, I mean, you have a small chart that goes 2004 to 2010, which is basically the last 8 years. And we see a complete explosion of internet users. And we see 2004, it was very simple. It's mostly browsing the internet on regular browsers. But now, with the introduction of social media, and I'll come back to that later, we have social networking sites, video blogs, internet messaging, and regular internet that are different channels available on the Chinese internet. What are the trends for 2013? Basically, on top of all those internet platforms that we have, that I've mentioned already, there are that were mainly accessible from a desktop computer. Mobile is going to be also a platform which counts really, because basically currently we have 390 million mobile internet users. That means people accessing the internet only from their mobile device, and that's already 8 million more than people accessing from desktop computers. Microblogs are reigning, and I'll come back to microblogs a little bit later, but you can see on your screen we're talking about Tencent Weibo, Sina Weibo, Weixin. Those are platforms that are Chinese-only platforms. As you might know, that traditional platforms that we see in the West, such as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, are not available in China.
Actually, I have a quick question on that, Denis, because we know. I mean, this shows that really the environment of social media in China is extremely different than what the SMEs participating in today's event are used to. Do you see that this might change in the future, or do you see that now the games is already almost played, and that the actors which are now predominating the markets will stay there, or do you think that there will be an opening up at some point again on social media like Facebook and Twitter?
There might be some opening later on Facebook, potentially Twitter, but right now the Chinese government has made it clear that unless they can control the content on those platforms, they will not allow them to be in China. And also, obviously, the Chinese companies that have developed and been established here will try to continue lobbying to make sure that Facebook and Twitter do not set foot in China.
Okay, so it's really essential to actually know
Yes.
the environment of social media in China. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we'll see some more changes, but those are probably new platforms coming in the field of social media. So market characteristics. Basically, there is an inherent mistrust of government authorities and advertising pushers. People don't believe, have little trust in official media, which could be for yourself, your company website, for example. The other thing is Chinese netizens are very much willing to contribute their own content and share it with their online friends. Typical taboos, legal constraints are still very sensitive, and the government is controlling or trying to control everything that is published on the internet, whether it's on regular websites or blogs and microblogs, and all the social media platforms, obviously. And last thing is website layouts and navigation is very different from what we use in the West. I think, yeah. So for example, here on this page, you can see that the typical web page is full of information everywhere, and people want, for example, to have as much information as possible on their page, because they want to be looking busy and it looks good. They don't like white pages with 3 lines of text, for example. So now we're going to discuss online promotion channels. So you probably have, if you're familiar with digital marketing, there is a full cycle which is usually that we usually look at, starting with search engine optimization, SEO, EDM, EPR, email newsletters, electronic public relation, social media, and then media buy and affiliate marketing. If you want to promote your websites or your products on search engines, for example. And then obviously search engine marketing, SEM, which is basically you're buying keywords on certain sites. Here in China, we're talking mainly about Baidu. Baidu is the leading internet search engine in China that has probably between 75 and 80% of the market, given that Google has experienced some setbacks and is not always available. So depending on what you're trying to build or what you're trying to communicate, we usually talk about that there's a path which is going from awareness to purchase, consumption, relationship building, and advocacy. And for all these little paths, we have different ways of addressing the public and the China netizens. So to build awareness, you will probably buy impressions via media buy, affiliate marketing, SEO, SEM, social media, email newsletters, and electronic public relations. And then you build your engagement mainly with social media, still your newsletter, and somehow with search engine marketing. Then we fall into e-commerce, and then again back to social media to build the relationships, get feedback from your customers, and probably find some key opinion leaders on social media platforms that are going to help you build your brand.
So before we get into, again, more details, it might be useful here again to launch a second poll to try try to find out what the SMEs and the audience we have today are actually focusing on. And with this, I'm launching the second poll, which should be appearing on your screens now. So what again will be, or you would like to be in the focus of your digital marketing strategy in China, a really search engine and conversion rate optimization, so SEO and CRO, competitive research, C, popular Chinese social media, D, just a mixture and a cocktail of all of these different elements, or are you very much still exploring what would be the best strategy? Actually interesting, because, and I'm sharing the results as I'm saying this, we can see the usefulness of today's webinar, because almost half of the users are really trying to learn and still identify what their strategy should focus on, whereas maybe a third of them will probably use a cocktail of these elements. I don't know if this is normally what your experience has also than you, or whether you have normally in your experience or amongst your clients and customers companies which are more focusing on particular elements of digital marketing.
Well, I think Benoit, I think it's quite interesting to see those results, and I think a good majority of people are still exploring the best strategy to address the China online market. This is not surprising, as it's actually not an easy task to do when you're considering selling to Chinese. I would say basically, obviously you should have your site, define your strategy, what you're looking for first. Then probably set up a website in Chinese, probably hosted in China as well for speed reasons, because also people, if people access your site and your site is in Europe, in the UK, in France, in Hungary, or wherever else in Europe, they might experience some delay, and people don't like to wait. And also, it has to be in Chinese, as the vast majority of Chinese people obviously speak Chinese only, and they're looking, and they don't want to bother with other languages.
Okay, thank you. I'm just hiding again the content of the polls, and we carry on with the next steps.
Okay, social media. We're going to talk about social media. Social media has really become the main way for people to look for products and services, share their experiences, and get feedback from other users. So right now we have about 560 million users of active users on social media platforms. That's 41% of the Chinese population. Social media has been growing over 30% year on year, and that's more than tripled in 4 years. So this is basically something you cannot ignore, and you have to deal with. And as I said before, Western platforms, Facebook, YouTube, eBay, Twitter, are not available in China. Okay. eBay is available in China because they have a Chinese partner, but otherwise, a lot of the Western platforms have been blocked. And you see in this circle, inside the circle, you see YouTube, Twitter, Yahoo. Those are the traditional Western platforms. And outside, in the same quarter of the pie, you can see what are the Chinese platforms that have been developed, initially copying a lot of the existing platforms, but they have developed their own features that are very well customized to the Chinese users and Chinese behaviors. So for example, you see YouTube. YouTube has like two main competitors, which are Youku and Tudo. eBay has competitors. Taobao is probably the #1 buying site in China. Everybody in China is buying from Taobao. This is the shopping mall for buying anything from shoes to cars to air filters, to anything you can buy, basically. Then you have competitors to Facebook. The big competitors are Caixin and Zhenzhen, Douban, Ozone, Qzone, for example. And those are, again, Chinese platforms that have been developed. And as you can see, the social media and the online landscape in China is quite complicated. So what are the dominant social channels? So in terms of Sina Weibo, you will see on the left side of the chart, is the dominant channel. That's a competitor to Twitter, but actually we'll see later it does a lot more than Twitter right now. Youku, Tencent Weibo, Caixin, those are all also local platforms that are still extremely popular with over 100 million users, each of them. And those are basically the leaders of the social media platforms. So in terms of, we're going to talk about microblogs. So right now, there's two leading microblogs. One is called Sina Weibo, the other one is called Tencent Weibo. But Sina Weibo is by far the largest and most influential microblogging platforms in China. They have 320 million plus registered users. 70,000 brands and corporate accounts are also on that platform. 80,000 plus government-related accounts, so whether it's regional government officials, state-owned organizations. And they have 100 million posts per day for the government-related accounts.
It's actually interesting to see that there are more accounts which are government-related than corporate-related. Well, I suppose that the figures might be very different in Europe.
Yes, the government is the leading force in China, but also everyone has felt the surge to start their own blogging device, to communicate and to listen to what people have to say. And it's interesting because I've been myself in China for the past 10 years already, and I've never thought that this would happen. But actually, it's interesting to see the role of social media in Chinese politics. And it is actually a way to bring in some kind of democracy, actually. That's very interesting. So Weibo, I said, Weibo was originally, Sina Weibo was originally copying Twitter, but they have developed their own characteristics. And basically, I mean, you can see here, this is the official site for Land Rover in China. And there's actually there is a corporate presentation. You have the followers, and you have the day we took that picture, you had like more than 110,000 followers of this account. And this is, Sina Weibo has become a very effective way for brands to promote their products, their cars, their lifestyle, and that's a very good way to communicate with their potential customers. Sina Weibo has developed a lot of applications that are linked to the accounts. So, for example, you can win prizes if you start following the brand. So BMW had been one of the first brands to start this, and so every 50 or 100 new followers will get a prize from BMW, basically. We have also micro activities. You can show pictures and win prizes and share pictures. So we were managing a campaign for Durex last Christmas, and when people retweet some of the content, they can win prizes as well. So winning prizes is a very good way to engage potential customers. Voting for certain products. Here, this is something that was organized by Estée Lauder. And basically, they were asking people to vote on their product development and share their comments. And that's also a very popular way to promote your brand. One of the newcomers on Sina Weibo is the Way magazine. Basically, you're able to create an online magazine with still 140 characters limitation that is typical to microblogging. But basically, that's for a lot of brands, that's a very good way to promote your products and to interact with your consumers. Then you can also promote your offline activities on Sina Weibo, and with some feature called Weibo on the Wall. And so, if you have an offline event, you can promote that event using Weibo. The next trend, we've discussed that earlier, is mobile marketing. And so, the chart you have in front of you is basically not the number of mobile users in China, but the number of people who use mobile to access the internet. Okay, so we have currently about 400 million people accessing the internet and the social media platforms from their mobile device, knowing that we probably have about a billion plus mobile phone users in China. So slowly, those people are converging to, they're upgrading their mobile phone from a simple mobile phone to a web-enabled mobile phone. In terms of mobile application growth, in 2012, the total amount of applications that were downloaded in China is over 30 billion. And there are more than 800 applications in stores, whether it's Apple Store or Android or other operating systems. China has become the second largest application market in the world. In 2012, the Chinese mobile application had over 100% growth, basically. One of the newest mobile platforms, so I was saying earlier that we'll see a lot of new social media platforms, and this is one. Weixin is also called WeChat in English. And you can actually download it yourself and install WeChat on your cell phones wherever you are in the world, and with an English version of it. And that's becoming a very popular social network application in China. And it's not only for individual users, but brands are starting using this also to promote their products. And it's been, we don't know yet where it's going, because it's like 6 months old, but it has already 200 million users. So one of the lessons of this is basically no platforms is here forever, and there always be some space for good new platforms coming to China, and the people can pick it up very quickly. So that's it for our presentation. A few words about the Digital Jungle, our company. We're a leading social media and a digital marketing company, initially based in Beijing, but with offices in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Japan, Australia. And we provide integrated digital marketing solutions using all kinds of search marketing techniques, social media marketing, EDM. We usually combine everything so that we make your campaigns most relevant to the target audience. And we believe in using content for marketing, and so that we make your company look good and product very interesting to the China audiences.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I think there's again, we were expecting this. We're being loaded with quite a number of questions, and I'm going to shoot you with a few of those, and just let me know if you want to share some ideas on them. Actually, before we start with the questions, I'd like to ask you a very straightforward question. A lot of the people that are in our audience are really the companies we serve. It's SMEs, and what would be, because the number, I mean, when you looked at some of the statistics and some of the screenshots you provided us, you can see that you took examples of some of the larger companies. If you have to speak to a European SME, what would be your really maybe one or maybe three key recommendations to start with? Because as you were showing on this wheel of social media and actors in the landscape of digital marketing in China, the environment and the landscape is a lot more complex than it is in the West, actually, with quite a lot of different players. Where should I start as a European SME?
Okay, I think you need to decide what you're trying to reach with your, as far as the Chinese market is concerned. Obviously, you will probably need to set up a website in Chinese and make sure that this website is visible to Chinese consumers. I'm saying that because I've seen, for example, hotels here in Beijing. They were foreign managed hotels. They had a website in China, but they had done no search engine optimization, no work on optimizing their website to Chinese consumers, and the website was actually invisible to Chinese consumers. If you were looking for the hotel online using Baidu or even Google China, you would not find the website. So you have to make sure that once, okay, you have a website, hopefully in Chinese, to make sure that it is visible. And then the next thing is to develop a social media presence. And the minimum would be Sina Weibo to start.
That's actually already answering some of the other questions we had from companies asking whether it's absolutely necessary to host their website also in China. I think, well, from my experience also, it's not absolutely necessary that it's hosted in China itself, but you would be better off of having it hosted in China or maybe in a number of locations like the West Coast in the US, which still has relatively high speeds to China. But there are a lot of hosting companies which are based in Europe, which are actually still relatively slow from access to the Chinese market. Or that's an experience I've had. The next question we have is, well, we've got actually a number of questions related to that. There was one specific question on whether you have a particular idea on the data of age groups on the internet, and I mean, I can imagine you don't have the figures right with you now here, but if you have, if you maybe can give some rough data here. There is a similar question as to whether the social media, and we asked the question in the poll actually, we raised the idea, well, the possibility of competitive research. How much can companies and SMEs use these tools, and I'm thinking of social media in particular, to try to actually get demographic information on their potential customers in China, whether generally specific from their pages or more generally in statistics that are generated through those social media.
Okay, so I think first question would be about the demographics of internet users. Right now, you attract the majority of people would be in the 20 to 45 age bracket. I would say 60–70% of these people. Having said that, it's not limited. I mean, it goes up to 65 or 70 years old. I have work colleagues who actually introduce the internet to their grandparents, so 70 or 80 years old people. Obviously, they're not going to go probably not on social media. but they would, for example, use an iPad to go and look for movies, to look for entertainment, to look for news, and they find it once they get used to using the iPad or the mobile device, the tablet, they can't leave it, and they get completely addicted to it. Anyway, then the question would be on okay, so demographics. Yeah, so demographics is basically, I would say, you tapping into the 20 to 45, 50 years old age bracket. Those are the consumers. Those are the people who buy on the internet. Those are the people who listen to what the online friends have to say about your products and your services. Now, how much can you learn? I guess doing competitive or research on the internet, on the social media platforms. You can actually learn a lot. And this is when we get a new customer coming from Europe or the United States or other Asian countries. The first thing we recommend is to do a survey online, and we use like a digital marketing platform which helps us research your market, your competitors. We enter keywords, and everything that comes with the keywords are every blog, post, website that has the keywords will come up on our research. And we usually do that for 3-4 months and deliver a report that helps you understand better what is the current market, who are the competitors, who are the players, who are the buyers, where are they discussing your products and services. And also we come up with a recommendation on how to get to those people.
Okay, so they're quite a useful tool, especially for SMEs that don't necessarily have access to all the resources necessary or
Yeah.
available to larger companies. Maybe there are some specific questions to understand a little bit more about some of the specific social media which exist in China. Maybe I can answer a few of them. There is the question of whether Weibo is the equivalent of Facebook. I'd be tempted to say that probably it's more similar to what Twitter is. It's microblogging.
Originally it was more similar to Twitter, but it has integrated so many additional functions. It looks like now a combination of Twitter and Facebook, if you will, but they are more than just Twitter and Facebook.
Actually, to come back to the points we had on demographics and statistics altogether, there is a person which is asking how reliable this data is and whether it's normally a good source of data. I suppose that the background for the question is also that there is a general question on how reliable statistics are in China. Does that thought also apply for digital media, or is it more reliable and accurate?
Well, those numbers are, there are China official statistics that are published every 6 months on the development of the internet. And also all those private companies are publishing their numbers. Obviously, you don't have to take those numbers for granted, as everybody, has their own reasons to tell you that they have that many users. On Weibo, you have probably, on Sina Weibo, you have probably 300 to 400 million users right now. Out of those 300 to 400 million users, how many fake accounts do we have? Accounts that are created with somebody that actually is not active. I don't know, and Weibo is probably not pressed to publish those numbers. But we have ways to identify, to know whether an account is an active one or a dead one.
Thank you for that. There is again, maybe amongst the last questions, maybe a tougher one, a question of how much it actually all costs for an SME. What would you It's a very difficult question to answer, of course. It's a question to answer, but for SME that want to maybe implement the strategy which you were talking about earlier about the website, and then maybe looking at Sina, what would be the approximate cost for that? Thinking again maybe of a medium company of maybe 15 people.
Okay, I would say there's no limit. Upwards, there's no limit. We have customers, they spend a million RMB every month on social media. But we have customers that spend 20,000 RMB a month. And that works as well for them. Okay? It really depends on what are your resources first, and then what you're trying to do. If you're a luxury brand, you probably need to spend a little more. If you're, our hotel or travel destination customers, they would probably spend 30,000 RMB a month. Obviously, there is a setup fee, an initial setup that can cost you over 3 months. It could be like 30,000 RMB for the minimum. And then maintenance plus some campaigns, I would say starting at 30,000 RMB a month. Yeah.
That's also answering a question from another company which was asking about whether, well, they were giving roughly maybe the lower mark of what you were indicating as a marketing strategy, online or social media strategy. So they seem to have the budget that they have seemed to be in line with what you believe to be what should be put maybe as a minimum to actually be successful in the development of your digital strategy in China. Yeah, there's a few other questions actually, and we are seeing how popular we are with questions today. I think we're by far reached or overgoing all statistics on Q&A for any webinar in the past. If you gave some recommendations for a European SME on what are the 3 most essential elements, will those vary a lot depending on which sector you are? Like, for example, if you're, of course, we're thinking about large markets, where you actually need this viral marketing, yes, but if you're going to be selling if you're going to be in the fashion industry or if you're going to be in the food industry, are the tools that you use be very different, or would you start with the same tools? If you're going one step further, do you think that there is a diversification to be done on the tools to be used, the different marketplaces online and social media, or are they the same for all sort of sectors?
I think there is a basic requirement in terms of a platform you're using. But as you have seen earlier, there are many social media and digital platforms available in China. So obviously, the more budget you have, the more platforms you can use. Your industry also will dictate which platforms you need to use. If you're in tourism industry, you probably need to, obviously you have your Weibo account. You might have accounts on movie and video platforms so that you can promote your destination via with movies. But I mean, it really depends on your budget. If you have any budget, I can spend it for sure. Okay? If you don't have any budget, but if, for example, you have a presence in China, or you have employees that do speak and write Chinese and understand social media, then your budget can be very limited. We could probably, for example, help you do the setup and tell you, okay, those are the platforms you need to be on. Set it up for you, and then your employee will do the follow-up. That's, so, and obviously, one thing you have to be very careful with is you start posting comments on Weibo, for example. And, when the months or the three months you start, you probably use an hour a day, a full-time person, an hour a day, posting and responding to comments on the platforms. But after your number of followers grows and popularity grows, you might need to spend 3 to 4 hours every day to maintain your online presence. And one of the difficulties we have had with some customers is, we start with a small budget, and after a while, after 6 months, we tell them, Now we have developed presence on 10 platforms, and we need 8 hours a day to maintain the platform. And so when you can't do that, we say, okay, well, then let's cut the number of platforms so that we stay relevant and don't kill ourselves when promoting our products and services. And that's perfectly fine to do that, but you have to be consistent and understand that what happens today will change tomorrow. You will probably have more interaction tomorrow. And also, platforms we can recommend today might not be the one we need to recommend tomorrow, as things are growing and moving extremely fast in China.
Okay, that's actually something to keep in mind. It's not an easy one because, as you say, there are quite a lot of players, very versatile, but also well volatile landscape. So it's maybe better not to think only about putting your eggs in one basket, but to also to diversify according to the trends and to also get advice on that. It's actually, as we've seen from this wheel, I think that's a quite interesting infographic you showed on how complex the landscape is in China and how useful it actually is to try to really think properly on how to develop your one strategy. We've taken quite a few questions, and I think that we're going to leave it to this amount of questions for today. We're actually getting to the limit of our time, so I'd like to thank our speaker again for his availability. I just would like to maybe before a few final words, I'd like to remind you again of one of the tools that we've published earlier, well, at the end of last month. It's our diagnostic kit, Are You Ready for China? You've got the links here appearing on your webpage. It consists of the online quiz, but then also full reports on tools which will help you on boosting your entry on the Chinese market, whichever strategy you may decide to, and help you to actually define the strategy that you will take on entering the Chinese market. It's not talking about social media or not much, so it was very useful to have the presentation today. Again, Denis, I'd like to thank you and Digital Jungle for actually being available to share your views and experiences on this complex landscape of digital media in China. I think that's been very useful, as we can see, especially from the number of participants today, but also the number of questions we received. So
it was a pleasure. Yeah.
And I think that we'll invite you probably again, as I'm sure there's a lot of other users which couldn't join us today, and we might repeat this webinar then. Again, I'd like to remind everyone that we're going to post this webinar online. And I thank you for your participation to today's webinar. As you know already, for the ones that worked with us in the past, well, you can continue contacting us through the website and through our email, but also through our social media on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook.
And only LinkedIn is available in China, by the way.
And, well, because we're targeting a lot of the users in Europe, this is explaining our digital strategy.
But that's probably enough for
Okay, and actually we're, as a lot of the users are also listening and reusing our podcasts and well, our webinars, I meant to say, from China. They are not only available on YouTube, but also actually on Youku. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you, Denis. I'd like to remind you of the short survey that will come up, pop up on your screen just after we complete this webinar. So please go through it. It's only taking really a very short time, and it's helping us to actually continue to identify and develop this very successful webinar platform. So thanks again to everyone, and next week we'll be on for our next webinar on food and beverage market access questions in China. See you next week, and let's keep in contact through our different channels. Bye, everyone.